Freedom is what most individuals ultimately fight for. When I say most, I actually mean all. In fact, there's every individual in this world seeks freedom. Every single individual. And I've spoken of this in the past, of how certain individuals will seek their freedom through ruling others, but that is the worst way somebody can seek freedom. The absolute worst way. And thus, there is less freedom overall. There is less nature. Because while you'd think morality and freedom go hand in hand, no, it is actually freedom in nature. Morality comes with it, but it comes with the understanding of nature. It comes with the respect of humankind, the higher order thinking, conscience of the neocortex. But humanity ultimately seeks freedom. That is what it is. And through all forms, indeed, all forms. Whether it is one living in their life, having a relationship that is troubling, one living their life, having to obey certain obligations that they don't truly want to obey, feeling stuck in different places where they can be free in different ways. One must have the courage to actually be free, because it is possible. There's always an escape, and there's always a way, there's always a path to freedom. And one of the key ways to achieve freedom is through the heart. Again, I see no word. I don't take no words of this from anybody else. The heart is something that cannot be denied. When I say the heart, I mean the internal intuition, the very right brain but subconscious, dreamlike invocation. Something that we can't pull out of our mind. Thus, to think of it, we come to conflict with it. We actually don't even know where it leads us sometimes, but the heart always proves right, and it always overrides everything that the mind tells us. And thus, the heart must always be followed, regardless of what it wishes, regardless of what circumstances surround that you inflict your mind onto. And so, the heart is what desires the freedom, and the heart must be followed if you are to achieve that freedom, by all means. And thus, this is where we have the idea of sacrifice, not actual sacrifice, but sacrifice of one's time and attention and the courage to escape the bondage conditions, the slavery conditions, to achieve the freedom. And so, it comes at a cost, but you say, why does love come at a cost? Why does the heart come at a cost? Why does freedom come at a cost? Because every transaction in the world comes at a cost. Every transaction. But you don't have to see it as a cost. You can see it as a requirement. Another scientific equation, or just a mathematical equation, just a simple conversion, any regeneration that happens in nature. We don't have to put numbers on it. And we shouldn't. It's love. It's a broad aspect, a broad topic that cannot be summed up so simply, just as it is truth, but it is even more powerful. Because again, the truth will be convoluted with the mind, but freedom is all within the heart. It's not convoluted. It simply follows, and so you must follow. As I've spoken before about regeneration and conversion, this is a natural process that happens in nature. Folks should give their relationships time, and when I mean time, I mean a lot of time in the modern century, for seeking out who somebody is, for learning about their behaviors, for learning to even live with somebody before they live with somebody, to not make such a big deal out of certain occasions, but to actually experience true love for what it is, which it does exist, and not to be overly exaggerated by the movies either. So there's an extreme on both ends, to which some will say, oh, I don't need any love, and then another person will say, oh, I want love so bad, I'm independent of it, and that is what most of society is at. But ultimately, the individual at heart just wants freedom, and that freedom is through the love to which they seek and they connect and they know will help them feel free, feel ease from the bondage of not having it, or so forth. And some will say this is all social construct, but it is in our nature to love. It is in our nature to connect, and thus that cannot be denied. Thus the heart should never be denied. And one may say all they want about the heart, and about this or that, but when push comes to shove, the truth always shines above, as does love. It matters not what you say, for the feelings will impact more. And this is where, we get the idea of natural instinct, the aspects that make up our natural diet, the aspects that make up common sense to its grasp of knowledge to begin with. And so that must be the grounding condition first, before preceding knowledge, before a deeper understanding. There has to be the ability, the attainability, through which only nature is the answer can highlight. It's to say that, by the very nature of things, you are able to do so. And if that is being attacked, then no wonder why we're lost in the details, because we're often focused on the symptoms. In a world of so much confusion, with so many different roots, with so many different people, it's understandable to only see the symptoms and not to see the roots. So freedom is a very, very, very deep root to all things. And through your understanding of what that freedom is, you start to see that, yes, it is indeed the root to all things. Because without freedom, we can't even innovate. Without freedom, we can't even do anything. Freedom is the requirement for all of life. For if you didn't have the freedom to produce life, life wouldn't exist. If you didn't have the freedom to think about this, you wouldn't be thinking about it. It wouldn't even exist. Freedom soon equates to existence, because existence is meant to be free. And by free, I don't mean with no cost, because clearly people have emphasized the cost that is necessary for freedom. But in actuality, like I said, it's a requirement, and that requirement is also free. It is a matter of willpower, the connection between the mind and the heart, for the mind to not dissuade and convolute everything, but to actually rather work with the heart in saying this is how we can guide it. This is how we can guide toward nature. This is how we can work with the intuition. So it's the left brain and the right brain working together. And thus, that's where we have the mind and heart connection. Of course, the gut is involved with every process. As you know, I've spoken of that as being the root to all things, health being the root to all things. But again, it's all freedom still, by requirement. The association with all these terms is no surprise. Nature, freedom, gut, heart, all these things. Truth. You'll get them mixed up, I'm sure, as some people have. They say love is the answer. Oh, truth is the answer. Nature is the answer. Are they not one and the same because they're all part of the same? Indeed they are. Just as many religions are speaking in many different terms, but they're all speaking on behalf of the same ideas at the end of the day, the root cause. And so we humans, we tend to differentiate each other, but yet we're all the same at the end of the day. So we have this unity that we cannot deny. And yes, it is found in nature, but it is found in freedom. And it always is. And so if we understand it's just a matter of how we allocate our freedom, what we choose to do to create that freedom, if it is sharing freedom, then we start to really see the bigger picture that's happening in the world. Sharing freedom. Oh, now I have to share, and now, there's not just a cost requirement, there's now a sharing. Sharing is the requirement. See, without sharing love, you will not get love in return. folks may say, oh, well, there's no morals in nature. Wrong. You follow it, otherwise you perish in social existence with others. You must have some sort of decency, some sort of kindness to make some sort of negotiation as you are fully able to as a human being. Even as any other species in the world, they're all able to negotiate as well, just in different ways. And so we negotiate, we share, and thus we connect. We cannot connect unless we share. Think about it. You can't hold hands unless you share the hand, your hand, to another person. You're voluntarily giving it. And so, no wonder, again, voluntarism is also associated with freedom. Again, no coincidences at all, because freedom is the answer. So, that is what it is. And if we understand that we do follow the heart, and the heart leads us to freedom, what could we do in our own lives is the question. I don't usually answer these direct questions for you because only you can truly answer them in your own life. For if there truly is a heart that you have, a care for what's going on, a personal connection to the lack of freedom, you know what to do. I don't have to tell you. You do know what to do. You just have to sit down, and it comes to a realization. Sit down even longer. Maybe you'll get even more realizations because you're giving it the time, you're allowing it to sink in, not being bombarded by the distractions, because in nature, you don't have all these distractions. And thus, return to nature is definitely a step I can say you can do, because it never hurts. And that's why it's the answer. But another thing you can do is free yourself by all bonds that you see in your life. Because that will open your worldview and thus see more potential and thus see how you can take action. Another thing I cannot deny as an action step. You cannot deny nature and you cannot deny freedom. Okay, well then we have love. I said follow the heart and that leads you to freedom. And I said, well, freedom could lead you to freedom, of course, right? And again, these are all synonymous, all terms that relate to one another, all terms that are symbiotic, they work with one another. And so, what do you do for love? Well, I would hope that would be easy. If you are still human, you have empathy. If you find it hard to have that, then try to find it. Maybe you have to go back. Maybe you have to return. Maybe you have to experience something of the real life to which you think you can just build reality the way you want, but rather, just as with meditation, it takes you. You don't necessarily have to take it. Okay? This is another reason why not just supplements, but medications, prescriptions can be very dangerous. You're taking it, but it's not taking you. What takes you with the wind? What takes you with the dancing? What takes you with the music? What takes you with it? What gets you inspired to move? Because that's what will get you to do the most amount of action ever in the world toward freedom, especially if you want to share it with humankind, to which that within itself would be a great deal to share. If you have a great heart to share. If you have a great nature that you see is being so greatly undermined. And so, see the heart, find it, use it. See the freedom, find it, use it. See nature, find it, use it. See, find, use. Observe, experiment, collect. Another hypothesis. Experiment, data, collect. Every equation we create for ourselves, and thus we can form a new equation. Again, this is the conversion process. Regeneration, bringing back that equation, going over and over again, returning back to the roots. Must I return to nature? Must I be with the poor? Must I experience what they're experiencing? Must I talk to this person? Must I do something different? remember that if you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep getting what you keep getting, freedom, if you're not free, you probably want to do something different. And thus, you might find freedom. But like I said, I bet you know where to find the freedom, because your heart calls for it in a state of such need for it. I bet you know. I bet you know. And if you don't know, and you don't know how, start asking at least one of those questions, and you can soon connect the other. Once you start asking questions, once you start opening your worldview, everything starts to come into play. I don't expect it to be easy. I never do expect it to be easy. But don't ever expect it to be easy when control has taken over the world for thousands of years, and people have permitted it, and they've conditioned into such a system. But it is unnatural, and thus work with truth, work with nature. Not some gospel, not some thing to follow, by some quote-unquote religion, but simply it is following your heart. It is following your duty. What legacy you want to bring into this world? What goals do you have in this world? Your goals will certainly be limited by freedom, will it not? With the lack of it. So thus, by freeing yourself, by providing more freedom for your environment, you're going to receive it in return. What you give, you return. This is natural law at work. It's the law of attraction. And thus, I wish you luck. Thank you. Nature is the answer. Follow your heart and seek freedom. Thank you.